Right. First of all, thanks for coming in. We're fairly familiar with you. This is a long saga that you have ploughed the furrow many a day. On the previous Rus scheme, am I right in saying there would be 230 or 40 that would have gone into that, or was there more? And how many overall is in Ireland that involved in the, basically in the ash dieback? How many individual farmers would be involved?
6,500.
So the numbers in the Rus is basically peanuts.
Absolutely. It was minimal uptake because it was never attractive. It was set up to do the wrong things.
Right. I'm going to concur. First of all, I think one thing needs to be brought into these findings as well, or this report, is that someone is going to get killed on some public road very shortly.
I can't disagree with you.
And I think the ministers will be responsible for not moving on giving, be it councils or given through the single farm payment or some system of funding, that anywhere there's an ash tree along a road, it should be cut, and it should be cut a year ago. It shouldn't be even now. It should be cut long ago, because someone somewhere, in my opinion, we all see storms. I saw the other day a branch of one just like that went down my own way and it blocked the road completely. If there was someone walking along or someone driving a car, it was domino for them. And I think that there's an obligation on the state to protect its citizens from that. We know about this. This isn't something that we don't know about, and I think that should be done. In relation to, look, at recommendations are lovely, right? And I see where they're talking about basically working with you together and bringing you on board. But then, from listening to what you have said, if a minister asks you going up the stairs, was she in touch with you? That's not a good sign, to be quite frank about it. That's not the spirit of partnership when a report has been out 5 weeks. I'll call it straight to you. You're dealing with one of the most incompetent departments that ever I saw within on the Committee of Agriculture. We have our hair pulled out between ash dieback, between planting, between felling over the last 3 or 4 years. How many meetings had this committee in here on that? And we don't have meetings over and over and over again if something was being sorted. We don't. We try and we have that much stuff to go through in here that we try and move on from one problem to the next. But we had to continuously go back and go back and go back to the section on forestry, which is, first of all, our national targets since 2016 have been less than 50% of what they should be. In the last 4 years, we will have hit 1 year's targets in 4 years. That's the facts. In good faith, the ICE decided to plant your land, right? When, you know, it wasn't a cool thing to do, to be quite frank at the time. I'd be blunt about it, to be the last thing I do. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to be straight to you, because you need a fair good quality land to grow ash trees. Incompetence in a department that has the ash dieback in this country. And because trees were imported. The dog on the street knows that. And ye in good faith went into something. Ye have been left basically high and dry over the last number of years. Yeah, a report is lovely to read. You know, it's lovely to read that equity is needed for ash plantation owners, a new partnership arrangement involving landowners in a designated task force. How long will all this go on? How long is basically, are you going to be here next year again telling us, well, you know, there was a task force announced the other day? And this seems to be going on and going on and going on and going on. You need a decision like that. You need, first of all, to bring you in and sit down with you and go through what really works. In my opinion, what really works is, like there was even at one stage, there was people ringing me that to get planning permission to actually go taking out trees. Isn't that correct? So you need, first of all, a waiver in the line of cutting the trees and getting the sites cleared. Simple as that. Because as you've rightly pointed out, Mr. White, that they'll go into dust. They're breaking up into bits. That's the first thing. They might be all right if you had a wood chipper or something and threw them into it for a bit of bedding or something. But that's basically what a lot of them are only any good for. That's the first thing. Then, obviously, there's roots and stuff that you have to try and get sorted. And then, the support that's needed, in my opinion, that if you want to leave your land bare, or if you want to go into a different type of timber, you need to get the grant, the new grant that's out now at the moment. I think that's the only way forward. It's not sort of complicated to decide how we'll do it. I think that if they were long enough over and back to the EU about the depth of peat and the 30 centimetres and the 50, that I can't understand how under state aid rules we couldn't have got the likes of year thing across the line as well, because it should be across the line. It's a straight, simple case of where people in good faith done something, the trees are gone wrong, the state acknowledges that, they have brought out one scheme at the moment that absolutely wasn't acceptable. The proof is in the pudding. 6,000 is again the amount of people that has taken it. But while it's lovely that you can come in here and you can say, we can say this and we can do that, we'll write off a letter to the Minister. But being blunt about it, it's going to take fierce political pressure to drive this on, because they've sat on this for a good number of years. You said, I think, was it Mr. Smith, 2017 or 18? That's 5 years ago. It needs a decision. We know what's needed. Everyone knows the pill that'll solve this, the medicine that's going to sort it. It's about putting a budget together. In your estimation, what will the budget cost to take it out? Say, in my opinion, waivers should be got in the line of planning permission or in the line of felling, because going through, it isn't that you're felling them that they're going off to a mill or anything. These are basically going to be, the best of them at best would be firewood, and it won't be good firewood, and after that you'll have them, you could make wood chip or something of it, but after that, that's game over on that. But that costs money. And then the decision of, what would your preference be? Would it be to get a new scheme for the farmers, like the new scheme in the forestry programme 20 years? Or would it be, and what would your preference be to sow? And or would it be to basically just get out of forestry altogether and don't go for a 20-year thing? Of your members or the people that's involved with you, what's the general thought?
Deputy, to answer that, you asked a lot of questions. I'll try and go through some of them. I'll probably take the last one first. Our members are made up of a load of different types of people. There are people with small plantations, people with big plantations, people with young plantations, people with old plantations. Each one's different. Our problem is that we don't have access to the official data, but it's all there in the Department of Forestry. They have access to all that. If they're to cooperate with us and we're to come up with solutions with them, we have to have access to that data too. For years, they didn't even share that data with the likes of Teagasc. So the advisory body that should have been advising people weren't able to do it, and it isolated them. Now it means that if you ask what type of scheme we want, we need a new scheme dedicated to dealing with the ash dieback problem. The RUS is a reconstitution and underplanting scheme. Underplanting is not in action now, that's gone. So the scheme doesn't even, its name doesn't even mean anything. So we need a dedicated scheme. We need money put aside to deal with it. We need actions to deal with it. We need machinery. we've lost a huge capacity of, I find it fascinating, when we were here talking to you last, we were all talking about 12,000 jobs in forestry. Now the Minister's talking about 8,000 jobs in forestry. Where have the 4,000 jobs gone? We know. The contractors are not there, the forestry workers are not there. There's no capacity, the machines are gone. So even to do the job that needs to be done, we're going to have investment in machinery and in personnel to do it on the ground.
Personally, I think myself, being honest with you, if the bikes start freewheeling and having a good scheme, and there's 6,000 people involved in it, I think machinery people react to business, right?
Yeah.
I think they will do that, but it's about this quality of the scheme that's there.
Absolutely.
To get it going.
You're dead right, Deputy, that the quality and the planning, it needs to be done with targets, and it's going to take time to do it, but it'll have to be done in cooperation. The other thing you state was you're worried about the roadside trees. Now, forgive me, but I have to say, dealing with roadside trees is not the Department of Agriculture's demise. It's not their domain, because it's the roads, the National Road Authority. That money is going to come from central government, and of course all ministers have a say in that. But it's not a forestry issue, because we're dealing with our ash plantations, which are a danger.
Yeah, sorry, now 1 second. Dealing with someone getting killed on a road unnecessary is every department's business.
It is every department's, but it's not just. It's not going to be the Minister for Agriculture or
agreed.
the Minister to deal with it. It has to come
but
from
it
local
can be
government.
administrated.
But that budget is not going to come from the Department of Agriculture. That budget has to come from central funds through local government, because it's going to have to be dealt with by local things. I drive the local roads, and because I know about ash dieback, I'm terrified in a storm. I'm looking at every tree. I understand. We've got people dying. We've had people dying in forests, cutting their own trees. We understand that, and we are desperately aware of the dangers. We keep talking about the health and safety issues. We can't go out and cut our own trees with our chainsaws. When they were cutting down these 108 trees through my land, just in the last month, putting in the railway, they had to do it with big machines, these big, huge machines which had shears. And even then, some of the trees were disintegrating when they grabbed them and falling on people, 100 feet away, were getting hit. It's dangerous, and people are going to die, and we keep saying this. We've got to prevent that happening. And farmers don't have the resources. I've got 40 roadside ash trees that I'm going to have to take down, and I'm again scratching my head. How am I supposed to do it? Because I don't have I'm not allowed to do it with the chainsaw. That if I injure myself or anybody working with me, we need a huge investment of time into that. That needs to be done immediately. But we need to do our land back into production. There are people who are absolutely on their uppers on this. And you talked about, sorry, one or two of your questions I've forgotten now because you have so many.
What's your ideal scheme, I asked you?
The ideal scheme.
Do you have any clue of the budget that would be required?
Again, the scheme is going to entail having to get consultants to measure what is needed, because we don't have the data. We know that 90% of the ash plantations are under 3 hectares, but that means that there's 10%, which we know farmers with 100 hectares, or 100 acres of forest of ash. I've got 20 acres of ash. There are people in all sorts of different situations, but it's not rocket science to measure it. We know that, say, a plantation of 25 years old per acre has about 6,000 euros worth of trees standing if they were healthy at that stage. So all you need to do is measure the age of them. It's not hard to come up with that. I estimate it could be between 400 and a billion to actually cost it. And then people
400 million and a billion.
400 million and a billion to actually deal with it. If people were to be fully compensated, I dare say we're not going to be fully compensated, but they have to do something to help people to do it. They can't expect people who have lost everything.
The only thing I would say to you is that figure, like, it sounds a lot, but we were told about 1.3 billion forestry between 23 and 27. And we said, geez, that's great money. But when we went to the EU, and Senator Daly was with us, we quizzed them. And in actual fact, 1 billion of that is over 20 years. So if you do it's like given a bit every year. The bark is worse than the bite, to be quite.
I'd ask, how many million did the Forest Service give back last year? I don't know, but I know it's a healthy number of million. They're not spending it. It's very easy to allocate money to forestry, but if you bring in schemes that are not going to work and people don't take them up, the money goes back. So the last point I do want to make, which you alluded to, was why do we think it's going to happen? We're in an election year. The rural Ireland is well aware of what's happening. They are absolutely disgusted with the history of this. And if the parties that are involved in government don't wake up, they're going to pay for it in the ballot, which is sad. But the fact is, they can do something about it. If they do take action now and are seen to be responding responsibly and helping people, they will gain the benefit of that. But far too long, they've left it up to incompetence, and nothing has happened.
Yeah, but I'd put it back to you. We're in 2018, you talked about we're in an election year in 2020.
Sorry?
I'd put it back to you that you spoke about 2018, this has gone on since. We had an election in 2020, they brought up no Rolls-Royce scheme for you then. In 2020, in March 2020, when there was an election, when it could have been sorted. And I have a fear that the department that's involved make things so complicated that I hope that they will move on it. We will do our piece, but our piece is like pushing up against a hill, and Senator Daly or any of them will tell you that this department has been in so many times. It's actually embarrassing. Forestry is embarrassing in Ireland at the moment. It's it's an embarrassment even to talk about it. And then they bring out a new scheme. How can I go to a farmer and say, when they look at what your story, what you've gone through over the last 6, 7, 8 years, how can you go to a farmer and give them confidence? Because everything is about confidence. Everything, in anything you do in life, whether you're a cattle or deer, dry stock or dairy or sheep or trees, it's about confidence in the market and confidence in what you're doing. And how anyone could have confidence at the moment, I think the figures, this new launch of the forestry programme, I hope I'm proved wrong, but I think farmers won't even look at it because they're just sick of what's going on. It'll all go back to one big conglomerate, the main forestry system in Ireland. That's what it'll do, because they're going to get state aid now.
I can understand your position, and I sympathise, I empathise, because we've been through it. We consistently talk about this, what we are doing is like pushing elephants uphill, and the elephants are sitting down. And we're fed up with it. But it's our job to do it, and we have to do it on behalf of our members who are pleading to us every day of the week, coming to us, what do we do? How do we help? And we're trying to do our best. And I think that the pressure is definitely coming on. The general public are much more aware now because of our campaigns and because of your help. People understand now what's happening. And I think there has to be a change. I talked about the work group of the department. There has to be a cultural change in the Department of Agriculture. I quite recognise that it's in a mess and has been, but there are good personnel there. But I think there has to be a change in personnel. I think we've seen some change, but I think there's hope. There's always hope with new people coming in. We hope that this Mr. Paul Savage, when he comes in and takes over as Assistant Secretary, that the first thing I would try and do is get a meeting with him. Because I think that if they direct from the top that the job be done, it can be done. And it has to be done politically too. That direction has to come from the politicians. The politicians are the ones that matter, the ministers.
When do you think the task force will take place?
Sorry?
When do you think this task force will take place?
I thought it should have been set up by now. I'm worried that
Have you
they're
got
setting
any
up a task force
communication
without the people who are
Have you
needed.
got any communication, be it your group or the farmer organisations? Have ye, this is out, is it about 5 weeks, is that fair to say? So have you got any communications in 5 weeks? Hey, presto, we're setting up a task force on the 1st of December or the 1st of January, or has anyone been in contact with you to give you any inkling?
No, and that's why I appeal to this group, and we're delighted to be here, to say, where's the emergency? This is a national emergency, and they need to act. If they are going to take the recommendations, they need to move. We need to be involved. We're waiting, we're ready to help. We know we have a huge amount of experience, and we have the year of the confidence is fast disappearing. The time scale to deal with this is tiny. If it's not dealt with now, forestry in Ireland is finished, as far as we're concerned. It doesn't need to be. We don't want it to be. We're all willing to do it. But if they continue with the way they're going, this minister and this government will go down in history as the government that took down Irish forestry.
I think they're there already, but not being smart, but I think they're there already at that. In relation to the question I asked earlier, from the people that or the data that you do have, what's the general train of thought? Are they going to replant with something, or are they going to? Would they rather to make it into a clean field again?
A large number of people. We had our conference back in March, and a large number of people, through frustration, said they just want out of forestry. They just want to pull it out of the ground, and they want to put their land back to things. The fact is, we can't advocate that as a representative group because it's actually illegal. We would prefer to see that compulsion to replant removed, because we think it's counterproductive to forestry. Once you plant in forestry, more than likely the most efficient thing to do when you cut down your trees is to replant, because you've got roots there and such like. But there are cases where people have been so frustrated they just want out. So it's mixed. Very few people want to go ahead, but there are a lot of pioneers who went into forestry. They want to create new habitats. They want to sequester carbon. They want to do their bit. In farming, you know that. The farmers are the custodians of the country. They're trying to pass it on to the next generations. They don't want to pass a mess on to the next generation. They want, our island's countryside is a product of our work, of we in farming do. Our tourists come and they look and they see. I'm fed up with people criticising conifers and such like. In my youth, I lived in Dublin. To me, heaven was to go out to the Dublin Mountains and the Wicklow Mountains, orienteering through these wonderful forests. And yet every day we hear people decrying them. They have so much to offer. They sequester so much. They're producing timber. They're producing habitats, and people who say they're not don't want to go out into them and see what they are. They are the ones that are producing something. Our broadleaves are wonderful as well, but you don't have to just have broadleaves and get rid of conifers. We need a different mindset. We have a very narrow mindset running our forestry at the moment, and it has to stop. Other people who have a different mindset have to speak up. They have to set in there, get in there, demand, and make sure that forestry is given its place.
Would you not contend that
I was leaning with you.
Last question. Would you not contend that that's coming from Europe? Because we were in Europe and all they were talking about was broadleaves. They didn't want to hear at all about conifers trees. That's being quite frank about it. You know, they just seem to believe that we're going to be walking around looking at broadleaf trees every day of the week, and that's it.
I know, but our situation here is we have a country that grows broadleaves faster than any other country. Spruce. Sorry, spruce. if you're talking about broadleaves, there are vast areas of Ireland where you can't grow broadleaves, go halfway up a mountain.
Right.
Where the minister keeps talking about the right tree in the right place. Well, sticking broadleaves into a conifer forest halfway up a mountain is not the right tree in the right place, as far as I'm concerned, because it just makes it less viable, and those trees are not going to survive. And putting alder trees or birch trees up there is ridiculous. That's from our perspective of dealing with it. That's our knowledge. If we want to do it, we need to do it properly. But that's not saying broadleaves don't have a big... Sorry, I'm going on.